Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Of Mountains and Men, the podcast about adventure. I'm your host, John, and this week on the podcast, I have my very good friend Mel. She's an entrepreneur, a blogger, and a photographer who's been in the entrepreneurship thing for 10 years, which, considering the fact that she's only 26, is kind of amazing. She's super interesting to boot, so I hope you enjoy this. And I thought I'd have her on because, to me, starting my own business has been the focal point of my whole professional life, and I've wanted to do it for so long, and she has been doing it since pretty much she was able to. So to me, it's a great adventure to try to create your own income. And even though it doesn't relate to the great outdoors that much, it definitely means that you can make the great outdoors your income. So I definitely wanted to bring her on and get used to her. She's going to be a regular. All right, guys.
Are you ready to go adventuring? Come along, my friend of mountains and men.
This episode is brought to you by the Nomadic Wife's Feast of Spring. The Nomadic Wife is a wellness blog, and she's just released her spring cookbook. It's filled with recipes that are in tune with the season, which means they're cheap and good for you. There's also a ton of cool info on how to plan better and waste less. It shares some personal tips on how to slow down and enjoy life. It's written by my good friend Mel, which you'll see around here often. It's definitely worth a look if you're into eating well, and even if you're only into burgers and pizzas, I'm sure your girlfriend or your mom would love it. Go check it out at thenomadicwife.com/shop. Hey guys, thanks for joining me. Mel, how are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm fantastic, actually.
Fantastic. Cool,
How
cool,
about
cool, cool.
you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just so positive recently it's really affecting my mood. It's really really good.
I think it's because you're so busy rocking and rolling.
I really am getting this thing off the ground. It's more work than I expected, but then it just like the work does itself, really. It's not a chore at all.
The plight of the entrepreneur, I guess, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's a perfect segue. It's actually why I wanted you to be on the podcast, really. I mean, you're a really, really cool person to hang out with. And I mean, I've told you many times that, I find it super inspiring what you do. And, just being an entrepreneur and not having to rely on having a job and just being able to provide for yourself and just create your own income. I think it's the one adventure that I've wanted to embark on for the longest time, and you've been doing it for a while. So, can you just like tell us how it started for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working for myself on and off since 2008. So it's been almost 10 years now, which makes me sound a lot older than I am. And I started with graphic design, which is kind of funny because I've come back to graphic design now, 10 years later.
Full circle.
Yeah, it's a full circle. You got to start with what you love, and usually that's basically where you wind up at the end too, which is kind of funny. But anyways, I guess that's a whole other conversation. How I got started. You know what? I am native from Montreal, so that's where you're from too. But then I wound up in Singapore, and I was over there, couldn't really get a work visa because I was there on a tourist visa, and I hadn't really planned that out super well. I was a little bit young and foolish, and I said, what the hell? I'll just start doing these websites. And my uncle was there at the time, and he needed some help to build websites for some of his friends and some of his clients. And he said, "Can you do this stuff?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I was fresh out of graphic design school, but I was so not ready. so not ready. But I did it anyways because it was there kind of sitting on my desk, and I'm the kind of person who just takes whatever life throws at her and kind of makes the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that lasted the entire time I was in Singapore. And then when I came back from Singapore, I kind of kept doing that on and off for some friends of mine in Montreal. And eventually I had to find what I like to call a bridge job because sometimes when you're establishing your business, there's just not the right amount of cash flow to really sustain everything that you want to be doing. Um, and so I found a little retail job, but I kept, my hustle on the side and I just kept pushing through and pushing through. And now, 10 years later, I have this beautiful project called The Nomadic Wife, where I write recipes and cookbooks, and I help women kind of journey a little bit more towards their health and having a more slow, mindful life. Um, and I do design on the side because, that's just, I don't know, I guess it's in my bones now. Like, I don't think I could even work for somebody if I wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the itch that I've been scratching for a while now. Like working for somebody, I don't know, in my head, and I know it's a, truncated way to seeing it, but in my head, I'm just spending so much time there for a crap salary just to help this guy up there, pay for his Mercedes. And, my time is worth so much more than what anybody would be willing to pay for to me, like my time is worth gold. And, even if I've got diplomas and everything, it's just like it's unrealistic that any company would pay what I want. And I'm just, realizing that, okay, well, if my time is worth that much to me, then maybe I should spend it doing something that furthers what I want to do.
Absolutely. That's definitely one of the perks of being your own boss is you can choose the clients that you work with and you can set your prices. And usually that kind of goes hand in hand. So, part of the adventure of being in business is kind of hunting down your clients, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things that has been evolving for me, especially on the nomadic wife side, is I'm starting to really be in a position where I'm leading this small movement. So the people who are buying the cookbooks, they're really invested in this lifestyle that I'm about, so the slowing down and the community and the, figuring out where your food comes from and all of that good stuff. But I have to admit to something that not a lot of like online gurus or whatever are willing to admit is it took me a decade to get here.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah, the all this stuff you had to learn somehow, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's got, like it's got its ups and downs. The beauty of it, which is what everybody sells to, like their audience or whatever, is like you get to be in charge of your own schedule, you get to be in charge of your own clients, you set your prices and you do all of that stuff and that's wonderful, and you get to do your art, whatever that is. You could be in mergers and acquisitions or you could be a painter, it's still your art. So you
Mm-hmm.
get to be true to yourself in that sense. Um, but like I feel like I'm such a party pooper, but I keep telling people like when they get into business, I'm like, okay, but make like cash projections and
Yeah.
figure out like where your clients are and make sure you can get them on board and all of these things.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got to find the name of this guy. I'm gonna try to find it as I'm talking, but basically, he's this like now basically what he does is like venture capitalism, and
Hmm.
he just invests in businesses, right? And he's been doing that for a while. And his biggest thing is he was the guy that was basically there when the kid came up with Snapchat.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was on the sidelines for that, and he got into the action as it came out. So but he was already the kind of guy that could say, "Hey, yeah, I've got $5 million for you." And he's like, a lot of what he does is he speaks at colleges and stuff like that, and he's trying to get people to be like entrepreneurs as well, and he's saying like with the way the economy is right now, that's the way you've got to do it. People are going away from the regular medias and TV and radio, and so like if you can find a niche, then people will find you. People have the internet now, and people have the social media to share what they like. So if you come up with a good idea and you do it well, then eventually, if you stick around long enough with it and you do the right, and you do the right moves, do the right marketing, it's gonna happen. But what he was saying that was really, really interesting is, the first thing you got to figure out is, before people invest in what you do, is you got to learn how to make money. That's the first thing. And okay, you've got this great idea about this app that you're going to call Snapchat, but can you actually, do you have the skills to make money? Because if you've got a great idea but you don't know how to make money, how are you going to make this work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the things that when I set out to do the Nomadic Wife, I sat down because I knew that I was going to do, most of this by myself. I really like hiring VAs, but that's a whole other topic. Virtual assistants, that is, they're glorious, and I've really worked with some of the best ones. I have glowing recommendations for some of them that I worked with. They were amazing. But at the end of the day, there's nobody who's going to work harder in your business than you will. It's your dream, it's your passion. You're the one who's going to be there getting up every morning and going to bed late every night, just really pushing it. But the first thing I did when I sat down and said, okay, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to talk about. This is the chapter of my life that I'm in right now. How am I going to make money off of this? Because there's no way that I am trading 40 hours for 80 hours at no pay.
Yeah, no, there you go. And I mean, it's even in adventuring, money is the first thing that makes you quit. If you're not going to be able to eat, eventually, you're going to have to find another job, and you're going to have to be taking time away from this project that you're doing. So you might as well be thinking about it right away. And what he was saying too is, basically what he was saying is, you should be looking at what you're naturally good at and what you can actually do right now. And this is where you should start.
Absolutely. One of the other tips that I was given was take account of what people ask you for. Because there's money there. If people keep coming back to you, I kind of pushed graphic design to the side and I pushed web development to the side because I was like, there ain't no way I'm going back to that again,
Yeah.
But people keep coming and they're like, oh, could you just fix my PDF, or could you, help me out with this logo? What do you think? I had it done by a designer. And then I'm like, oh, well, you could have done this, this, and that. And they're like, oh yeah, that totally works. So, there's always money where your skill set is. There's always a way to turn your skill set into money. I know that graphic design is an obvious one because every small business or medium-sized business in the world needs a part-time graphic designer or somebody that they're comfortable working with to put out mailers, marketing stuff, their website, whatever.
Yeah.
But I've seen people turn the craziest skill sets into money. We spoke before this call about how my boyfriend's brother is really into adventuring as well, and one of his friends kayaks for a living.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're really good at something, there's definitely money to be made. And if that thing that you're good at is also what you're passionate about and what you love, then you need to tunnel vision the fuck out of it right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huh. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I mean, I started by, I started the first time I tried to go into business, as you remember, and most people don't know about me, but I tried to do magic, and I realized pretty fast there was no money into it. That's why I kind of stopped, because I liked doing it. It was really fun and I enjoyed doing it for my friends and everything. And I thought, well, I can make a business out of this. And then, after a quick conversation with a few, wiser people than I was, I realized, okay, well, what's the business plan here? And like, what's the kind of money that I can make? And I realized, okay, I'm sinking hours and hours and hours into this, and at the end of the day, I'm not even going to be able to make a living out of it. So it's a cool passion, but it's not a good business. And I think that's the way you should look at it first and foremost.
I completely agree with you. I mean, there are people out there who do these really cool things, like, magic, for example, but unless you're just so good at it and so charismatic that you can land yourself a really good deal or fall in with the right people, not everything can be turned into an income that can sustain you. Everything can be turned into money. Everybody can make $20 by selling whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between, doing that and having a stable income that allows you to, put food on your table.
That's right. And a lot of it, too, with performance art, it's always the same. It's a lot of times it's a question of timing, right? So if there's already 2 or 3 popular magicians when you're, trying to make a name for yourself, and like there's this guy on the internet, and there's this guy, locally that's pretty popular, and then there's this guy who's launching a magic show, and like it's a pretty tight market and it gets saturated very fast. So if you want to do something in it, then you need to have the right timing. You just need to be present on the scene at the right time and be putting your stuff out, when there's nobody else that's doing it. And at the time I was trying to do it, the market was pretty saturated. And I was like, oh, no, I'm good. I can pierce the market. And I realized, yeah, I can, but the amount of time and effort, it's not because I can't, it's because the amount of time and effort that would be required to do it, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with graphic design and everything. When you're actually launching, it just so happens that there's this new freaking app or website that came out and that makes finding graphic design super easy and super cheap, and that's forcing the market to like put their prices down and everything. Then you have to realize that fast and see, okay, well, I've got to come up with some other market business plan, because that's not going to work.
Well, I have a bit of an advantage in that niche because I've been doing it for a long time. So the beauty of that is you can't really buy experience.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 10 years of doing something to become an expert at it, and I'm almost there. Like there's always new things coming out. There's always, new tech, new whatever. But at the end of the day, you can't really buy an eye. Like if you have an eye for something and you can tell that it's going to work, then that bit you can't buy. So I really capitalize on that. And I also exclusively almost deal with people who are in my field. So I deal a lot with nutritionists and yogis and small businesses and coaches and wellness people and food bloggers and stuff like that. And the beauty of that is not only do I understand what they want their business to look like, but I understand easily who they are because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you gotta find a place where you have a leg up, not just right. I'm really good at doing this, but I also know the person I'm talking to, like they could have been my friend for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes to say that you're pretty much your own avatar here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm my client.
Yeah, there you go. Can you explain quickly what's an avatar for guys that don't know what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're designing your business, some people call it an ICA, or an avatar, or there's a million acronyms for it, but basically, you want to sit down, and once you've decided what your business is and what you want to offer, you want to figure out who you want to offer it to. And you want to make that into one person, ideally, because you're not going to be talking the same way to a 50-year-old man than you are to a 15-year-old girl. The language is different. The type of imagery you're going to be using is different. The approach, like some people need a hard sell, whereas some people need a periphery sell. There's just so much that differs depending on who you sell to. So the clearer you are on who your audience is and who you want to serve, the better off you are, and the bigger leg up you have in being able to serve that person what they truly need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like if you don't know who you're talking to, then you're talking to no one.
Yeah, exactly. It's like some people want to talk to everyone, but you need to talk to that one person first, and be able to get really clear on what their desires are, what their goals are, what motivates them.
Yeah.
And that really, when you figure that out, you just struck gold,
Yeah, I know. Like, I was thinking, when I started this project, I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to do a podcast because, you talked about coming full circle. And, I mean, 14 years ago, I was studying in, theater and communication, and I was, I knew I had a knack for it, and I had, like, a good, public presence, if you will. But like, life took me somewhere else, and I tried a bunch of different stuff. And recently I thought, you know what? I always wanted to do radio, and, podcasts are the new radio. So that's probably, thinking about what I'm good at and where I should start, with something that I actually have a knack for. And when I started this project, we talked a little bit, and you helped me figure that out, okay, so who's the guy you're talking to? Like, you want to do a podcast about adventure, that's cool. But if you try to talk to everyone that likes adventure, then, you're not going to be talking to anybody specifically, so pretty much nobody's going to feel like you're talking to them. And when
Exactly.
and when you're going to do this thing, then, people are going to listen to it, and they're going to be, they're not going to feel compelled to listen again because they don't feel like you've actually struck a nerve with them.
Precisely. Precisely. And I think that, through doing that work, you really were able to hone in better on, your branding and the type of adventurers that you want to talk to, and what their motivations are and who they are. That's just gold.
Yeah, and I mean, once I finally was able to narrow it down, because at first, I'm telling you guys, it doesn't feel natural. You're like, yeah, but I don't want to decide, who I'm marketing to, because I feel like I'm, putting myself in a box, and there's all these other potential customers that I'm not going to be approaching, and it feels weird and unnatural to do that. But once I finally sit down and manage to create Alex, my avatar, everything kind of fell into place. I mean, I was trying to be creative and trying to write all these podcasts that I thought would be interesting, and I thought they would be interesting. But then, once I realized, okay, so this is the guy I'm trying to talk to, everything fell into place, and I was able to write, episodes in a tenth of the time it took me before I did this exercise.
Yep. I kind of want to say I told you so. But
yeah, no, you
that
should.
would be gloating, and gloating is not nice.
No, you totally should, man. I mean, hey. Yeah, so Business 101, yo. Find what you're naturally good at, start there, and just make sure that you're not selling yourself short. Make sure you're not putting all this effort for nothing, because, in the end, you're worth something. You're worth, your time is worth a lot, and if you realize that early on and you work towards that, I mean, it's just a matter of having the stomach to, go through the shit, I guess.
Yeah, and also, I think, I was looking at the questions that you had sent me, and it kind of brought something up for me, which reminds me of something that you're doing also, is you're trying to build this community around this idea of adventuring.
Right.
And in a way, being an entrepreneur is like the wildest trip of your life. you know?
Mm.
Like, there's one side of it where you're in your pajamas at home in front of your computer and you feel like there's nothing happening. And then there's this other side where it's a roller coaster of emotions. You go from, you know, thinking you can see the top of the mountain, so to speak, to being in the brush at the bottom of the mountain and being like, Jesus Christ, is there a top to this thing? Like, am I ever going to get there?
Yeah.
And it's an emotional roller coaster, and it tests you in ways that you would never think possible. Like, for example, this week, I'm part of a group of women. Well, there's some men too, but mostly women, called Rising Tide. And we have once a month this meeting where we actually get physically together in different cities. I think there's something like 300 chapters. But there's one here in Edmonton, and I was asked to speak at the latest one because I do a lot of food photography. It really goes with my business and stuff like that, doing the recipes and all of that. And one of the things that we discussed was flat lays. So I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but basically it's those pictures that you see on Instagram that all the cool kids take. You know, it's like top down, and you see like coffee and whatever, or products, or, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the girl who asked me, or the woman who asked me to speak, her name is Kelly, and she sees something in me that I have no idea why she sees it, but she always puts me in these public speaking positions. God bless her. And I stood there in front of like 35 women, and I was like, hi, I'm Mel. This is super awkward, but I'm really good at flat lays, so here's what's up, you know?
Yeah, I've been telling you for a while that you should get in front of people because you've got that personality, man, for sure.
Anyways, it really, really tests me. You know, it really pushes me to my limits because, I mean, speaking to you is easy because I know you. But for the most part, when you're standing in front of a bunch of people that you don't know, your brain's reaction is run away, do it as quickly as you can, never look back. So it's really, you know, you have those moments where you got to put it all on the line, and you got to be like, okay, I am pushing one step further.
Yeah.
And when you asked me to do this interview, I was like, oh man, how can I relate this to adventuring? But it is an adventure.
It's
and
for
it's a
sure.
Pretty like booty kicking one too, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no need for hyperbole here. It kicks your ass for sure, man. I mean, like I've wanted to do this for a while now. Like I would say easily the last 4 jobs I had, and the one I have currently. It's not that they're bad jobs or anything. I mean, I've had assholes for bosses, and thankfully it's not the case anymore. But it's just I think it's just the way I'm wired. It doesn't work for me, you know. I working for someone, for this company, and to make more money for the shareholders, while I know that they're short changing me and, you know, making me work more and more and more for less and less and less, because that's just the capitalist way, you know. Companies are going to do that because that's how they stay in business, and it just doesn't work for me. So you know, it's been scaring the shit out of me for the longest time, but I decided to take the plunge because you know, at the end of the day, I'm less scared of trying this thing and failing than I'm scared of realizing when I'm 60 that I spent my whole life making other people rich when, you know, I could have been at least trying to make something, you know, to build something for myself that I feel proud of all this time. And I'm a lot more scared of getting there and regretting not having tried it than I'm scared of failing, you know. If it makes sense.
Absolutely. You know, it's like nobody ever gets to the top and then looks down and says, oh, you know, so sad I tried.
Yeah, there you go. And like, I don't know there's not really a way to put this into adventuring terms, but I feel like in this, you know, in this business thing, in this entrepreneurship thing, there's no summit to this mountain, you know. There's just ups and downs, and there's always the next mountain. And there is this Everest of being an entrepreneur where, you become a billionaire and, all you do is, date models and drive cool cars. But even then, I mean, there's always going to be, that primal need to challenge yourself that's going to be there. And, even I'm convinced, I mean, even Bruce Wayne needed to become Batman and save his city, yeah, but that's it. Like, there's always going to be something else. You're never going to get to the end of this journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially, I find that the entrepreneurs that I know who do the best and enjoy the journey the most are the ones who aren't really after the money. Like, they have a solid money plan and they're like, my business is going to make money this way and I know what's coming in, and like, they have a solid foundation. But they're the ones who go in and try to really serve the people that come into their business. So let it be a follower on Instagram or a buying client, they're really in there to make that person's life just like 1% better.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're actually being helpful, then, it's that much less marketing you have to do, I feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So if you're trustworthy and likable, you got a leg up on everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're offering something that's, even if it's not necessarily needed, if you're actually offering something that people are interested in, they're like, there's so many, I don't know, blogs or Instagram posters or podcasts or whatever, what have you, that I listen to them or I consume their products, and I'm like, where has this been all my life? Why hasn't somebody come up with this before? And it's those types of ventures that I find, it makes my life better. And it's just like TV shows, they make, a dime a dozen TV shows, and like 99% of them are absolutely crap, and I wouldn't watch them if there was absolutely nothing else to do. I'd watch paint dry before. and then along,
hey, I have watched paint dry. It's not that entertaining, okay?
there you go. And along comes fucking House of Cards, man. And I'm like,
right?
yeah, and I'm like, this just, yeah, thank you, Kevin Spacey, for making this.
Seriously, like, mind-blowing, glorious writing.
Yeah,
is what that show is.
There you go. And I'm like, you know what? It's just, that's at that time, that's what engaged me, and it just like challenged me to see TV in a different way. And so that's what interested me in doing this podcast. I'm like, definitely, if I'm interested in learning about adventuring, like I was, a few years back when I started, and I would have liked to have someone, just shoot the shit with other people that do it, and just being able to listen to them and say, hey, there's other people out there to do it, and there's definitely other people out there doing it. And I think this podcasting is just this great way of getting into people's, daily lives, and they bring you with them on their commute or in the car when they're having a road trip, and it's just this wonderful way of just communicating with people. I think it's just it offers something that's not out there right now, because what are you going to do otherwise? You're going to listen to like commercial radio? Not really.
No, I don't know. I don't really know that many people who still listen to radio, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, no. So there you go. I mean, it's just it's the way I was seeing that is, I don't know if I'm the guy that people want to listen to, but I'm definitely know that, this thing that I'm doing is something I looked for when I started adventuring, and it wasn't there at the time. And it's, and I'm thinking, if I was looking for it back then and I couldn't find it, then I need to put it out there because somebody else is looking for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I
Which,
looked for it, something else is looking for it too.
for sure, for sure. Which, I kind of want to flip the table on you right now based on what you're saying and ask you, how has the adventure of being in business been so far?
It's crazy, man, because that's the thing, right? I'm not at the point where I can just say goodbye to my, day job just yet, and but I'm at the point where, this thing is picking up speed considerably, and I'm at the point where I need to put a lot of time in it, and it's super interesting. Like I get up at 4:30 every morning, and I don't even care. Yeah, I'm okay. Well, I've got to write for 6 hours this week so that I can do this. Well, all right. I don't have a lot of time in the evening, and well, I'm just gonna get up and work for an hour and a half every day before I go to work. And it just I've tried a few times and it didn't make sense. I didn't have the heart to put that much work into it, and I mean. I follow Arnold Schwarzenegger on social media a lot because I think he's just this genius that nobody is seeing, and it's
I
true.
helped elect him.
Oh, it's true, man. This guy, fuck. Anyway, he was saying that when he came to America, he had this vision of what he wanted to do, and he just knew, I need to be able to make sure that I'm autonomous and I can make my vision a reality without the help of anybody. So he started by saying, okay, well, if, becoming a big bodybuilder is going to cost me a lot of money, and becoming this big movie star afterwards is going to cost me a lot of money because I'm going to want to do the projects I want, and nobody else is going to invest in it. Well, I need to be able to make money first. And he made his first millions in real estate.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He made his first million in real estate, and that's how he was able to just train like a fucking meathead all the time and, be Mr. Olympia 7 years running and 6 years running, and then he quit to become a movie star, and he did a few movies, like his early stuff, Conan the Barbarian and stuff like that. And then,
Which was pretty badass, may I add.
yeah, there you go. And like and it was perfect for him because he had this thick accent and he was this big muscular guy, so like the Barbarian. But then Hollywood wanted to like just box him in and put him in that typecast, and he was like, okay, so you're gonna be this foreign muscular guy for the rest of your life, and he was not having it. He was not. That's not what I see, man. And he decided, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go back to bodybuilding just to show you up. Went back and on like 3 months training, became Mr. Olympia 7 times to shut them up, and went right back to it. And he was like, okay, well, now that I'm a millionaire, I don't need you big studio execs anymore. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And, so if you look at the mountain and you're like, oh, I want to become, a big movie star and I want to play, action cop movies. And yeah, okay, that's cool. And I encourage you a lot. But, what's the foundation you're going to base this on? Are you just going to, try to knock on doors until people actually see what you're seeing? They're never going to see what you're seeing. You have to show it to them. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to, provide for yourself. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm still, I still have to provide for myself, but I've got the vision, and it took me a while to make it clear in my head and see where I was seeing myself, 3 and 5 and 10 years from now. But I think I've got a good base, man.
I'm so damn proud of you, man.
Thank you.
You're just like, you're working really hard, and it's super interesting for me to watch you go because, when I started the Nomadic Wife is pretty young, it's about a year old, and it's not that old, but at the same time, you quickly forget what those first months are like. And you quickly forget what those first struggles of like, okay, what am I going to do? Who am I going to do it for? How am I going to do this? What's my marketing plan? Who's my client? Like, there's so many questions at the beginning, and you forget the struggle of the beginning. You quickly forget the struggle of the beginning.
Yeah.
So you just have to embrace every step and just kind of keep pushing on. You just like take that next step and then a next step and then a next step. And then the next thing you've been published 30 times and you're not even a year into your business and you're doing all of these cool things with really cool people who are totally into what you're doing. It feels so freaking good, but there's something addictive about that beginning hardship. And I don't know if it's because I'm slightly masochistic around the edges, but it's so cool to watch you go, because it reminds me of like going back to basics and remembering what's important and what's fluff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny
So it's
that
really cool.
it's funny that you say that, because like the first, I don't know, million ideas that I had that I never acted upon, I always felt like, okay, but I've got no audience. Like, I've got 50 people that like me on Facebook, and I've got this Instagram account that's got 55 people.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, I'm gonna put this thing out there, and nobody's gonna listen to it, right? And I realized, and that's why I was telling that Schwarzenegger story. I realized, okay, but I see it. Like, I have the vision. I see where I want this to be, and the path I want this project to take. So, all I need is to put it out there, and eventually, obviously, I need to do the marketing work, and I need to have a strategy, and I need to have a plan. But if if I build the product right, then people are gonna be attracted to it when I put it in front of them, and that's why I just decided to let go of my fears and just produce it and just put it out there. Because I mean, even if the first 3 podcasts are listened to by mom and like my
Your
cat,
cats.
my cat gives me like 3 downloads. I mean, eventually, if I put it out there and it's good, people are gonna listen to it, and I hope that they do. But in the end, I decided to overcome the fear by just telling myself, you know what, man? If people won't, nobody's gonna see what I see, so I need to put it in front of them and like, see, I told you, this is what I envisioned, and this is what I envisioned, and I know that it's interesting to some people because it's interesting to me, and I mean, there's a lot of people like me out there. I know, I've met a few. And
Yeah, a bunch of weirdos like you out there.
oh yeah, for sure, man. Come on. I mean, everybody's a weirdo. You're a weirdo.
I'm totally a weirdo.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. Like when you decided, hey, I mean, cookbooks and pictures of food, nobody's doing that.
No, just half of the population of Earth and all of their mothers.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, if you've got an idea and you've got a vision, you're like, no, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I want to do, and this is another guy I'm gonna have to look for. Man, I've got a lot of Google search to do, but I need a PA, man. Yeah, but there was this guy. I don't remember who he is. I'm gonna try to find it and put it in the description. But basically, he's a filmmaker, right? And he does these short films.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was receiving an award of some sort. I can't remember which one. And when he gave his speech, he was saying, when he got into filmmaking, he didn't really, like, he knew that he wanted to make films, but then he didn't really know how to, get it out there. And he was thinking, okay, well, I need to look at what's trending right now and what's going to work, and I need to create the film that people want to see. And in the end, he realized that having done that for like 5 or 6 years, realizing that he wasn't getting traction, nobody was watching his movies, he realized after taking a long, hard look at what he was doing, that he needed to make the film he wanted to see. And that's what
Yeah, you gotta scratch your own itch.
Yeah, there you go. And when he made the movie he was interested in, then like that's when it got traction, because people can see the passion in your project. And if you're doing something that you truly believe in, then I don't know. It's like when you
Sky's the limit.
yeah, no, not yeah. Wow, what a cliche. Uh,
No, but it's still true though.
it is definitely. But what I meant is like if you're looking at an interview where the person doesn't want to be there. Like when you look, I don't know, like Harrison Ford's a good example. When you watch him being interviewed, you're like, this guy's the most boring guy on earth. No way this guy can be an interesting actor. Because he doesn't want to be there. He's not interested in being on Jimmy Fallon. He doesn't care, and he looks boring. But then, when he signs up for a movie, he believes in it, and he's like, yeah, this is a project I want to get behind. And then, magic happens.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, actually. You just gotta be in love with what you're doing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, there you
Because or else
go.
it's not sustainable. Like over time, like you really want to be putting yourself through all of that. And I mean, like, it's a lot of hard work. It's just countless hours of everything. You have to wear all the hats and you have to be on top of everything. And then if you don't love what you're doing, 5 years down the line, 10 years if you're slightly masochistic, you're going to look back and be like, well, I should have just worked for somebody else.
Yeah, there you go. If you're like, that's a great point, man. I mean, I feel like what you're saying is basically if you're tired of working for somebody else doing something you don't enjoy, why would you do that for yourself then? Even if you work for yourself, if you're doing something you don't enjoy, then, it's just as bad as working for, working a corporate job you hate.
Absolutely. And you're probably going to make less money and
Yeah.
have no benefits and have no life or friends because you're going to be so busy doing the thing that you hate doing and you're going to be miserable doing it. So it's like not a win-win in any kind of perspective at all.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Like, ah, man. I'm thinking of a guy that was
You think
saying,
of a lot of guys.
yeah, no, but yeah, because I don't know, I listen and I watch the too much shit, man. My brain needs to be teased on three fronts at the same time to be engaged. Like I'm doing something and I'm listening to a podcast at the same time, and I'm, watching my feed on my phone, and I'm just, so yeah, I get stimulated on a lot of fronts. But there was this guy that was saying, yeah, like, oh yeah, if you're getting into business right now, there's this thing. This is what you need to do. This is what makes a lot of money right now. Like people that are doing this, they make money. And I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, but it looks so fucking boring, man. I mean, I can understand that, but if you're going to be working 80 to 90 hours a week to start your business, take all those risks because let's face it, that's why people fear going into business because of all the risks. And you're going to do all of that and you're going to eat that bucket of shit to do something you hate, even if there's money involved. I mean, yeah, you're going to have a lot of money, but you're going to be 5 years down the road with all this energy spent doing something that did nothing for you. And that's why I want to, do adventure and talk about adventure because that's what does something for me. When I get out there, that's when I feel like, hey, I'm accomplishing something that betters me, that makes me somebody better. And that's what I look for in everything now because I realized, hey, there's this feeling that I can get that, elevates me and that pushes me to become a better me. And when I realized that it was out there, then I started looking for that in all of my, endeavors and all of my relationships and, let go of a few friendships that weren't working for me and found a partner in life that, that pushes me to become somebody better and that I want to be somebody better for this person. And it's just, yeah, so that's why I chose what I chose. But I think, if you can figure out what that thing is that elevates you and that makes you want to be better, then that's what you got to go after.
100%. I don't think I can reframe that to make it sound any better than you already did.
Awkward silence.
Do you have any more questions?
I don't, man. That was so interesting. Thank you for joining me, man.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, yeah, anytime. We got to do this again.
Well, I'll probably have you on my podcast when I eventually launch it.
Yeah, you got to do it, man. I swear to God, people are going to want to listen to you. You're interesting.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, catch you around, man.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun doing it. You can find Mel and everything she does at thenomadicwife.com. That's thenomadicwife.com. She just released a cookbook for spring, so check it out. And you can find me at ofmountainsandmen.com. And lastly, if you have a minute, I'd surely appreciate if you would rate this podcast and give it a review. It helps me out so much. Until next time, guys. See ya.
Are you ready to go adventuring?